What is going on, Notre Dame fans? Mike Singer, Mike Goolsby, live on the Blue and Gold YouTube channel on a Sunday night. The Mike Goolsby Show is back in its proper time slot. Really appreciate you guys joining live, watching back, listen podcasts, whatever the case may be. And to you, I say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Yeah, Notre Dame 28, Miami of Ohio 3. We're going to be diving into that game. Notre Dame's season is, a third of the way through. So we're going to talk about the status of the Notre Dame football program with our former Notre Dame captain and linebacker here. Mr. Goolsby, trust you're doing well, my friend?
I'm doing good. This is going to be a iffy, kind of touchy episode. You know, coming off of 2 strong wins. And in the Notre Dame nation, like the Notre Dame fandom kind of community, it feels a little icky. Like people are upset, Singer. People are upset. And then there's a lot to discuss. Where are we at a quarter or a third of the way through the year? Are we optimistic? Are we pessimistic? We're going to try to make sense of it. But I don't know how fun of a show this is going to be. It seems like there's a lot of people that are unhappy.
Well, Mike, it's up to us to give everyone the warm and fuzzies. To tell everyone that it's going to be okay. Notre Dame's going to win 4 straight national championships. That's what we're here for, right, Mike? That's what we're here for.
I love that you brought up championship, and I think it's important. Yeah, maybe this will be a trend. At the start of every show, we'll just do a quick look back, like where are we at? A quick, just status health check on the program overall. It was 3 weeks ago. We were the number 5 ranked team in the country. Looking at the schedule preseason, brother, it was like, oh, man, we're kind of a shoe-in for the playoff. It was like, we're going to get that number 5 spot, home game. And it's like, where do we feel now? So you mentioned championship, and I've used that term throughout the course of our time together. It's like a championship lens. So if we are going to be critical tonight, folks, it's through that championship lens. And if we're going to be optimistic as opposed to critical, it kind of comes down to the film. As poorly as Riley played most of the first half, I promise you, folks, when you dig into the film, there is reason for optimism, as frustrated as you are. And I shared that same frustration watching the first half. That first quarter of football, that was tough, dude. It's like we muffed this punt, it was tough. It was tough. But what do you expect from a Notre Dame day game in Notre Dame Stadium? It's become a trend over the years.
Yeah, that is on my list of things to talk to you about. So yeah, but looking at this through, so as you're thinking, all right, the whole championship lens discussion, winning their past 2 games in the fashion they have, 94-10 is the total, right? Is that what you said it was, Mike? 94?
Yeah, so 66-7 over Purdue, 28-3 over Miami, Ohio. So that's a 94-10 scoring margin the last 2 weeks.
They have at least put themselves back into like outside looking in of the bracketology right now. You beat Louisville next week, then you're back in the like you're very much in the serious conversation of being a playoff team. And championship lens, you make the playoff, that's the big first step. Now you're not unless all hell breaks loose in college football, it's pretty unlikely Notre Dame is going to host a college football playoff game. So that's going to make their path more difficult. But again, going to the championship lens, which is why I'm critiquing this Notre Dame offense so much more than ever, is because this isn't a Drew Pine offense. This is a big money quarterback you brought in to win you a championship in year 3. So that's why I'm more critical than ever of this Notre Dame football team.
Singer, we're going to be critical of the offense, critical of the defense, and then don't forget about special teams. I mean, Notre Dame is not a talented enough team to knock off a quality opponent in Louisville and not compete and play well at all 3 phases. I mean, the special teams this past week was abysmal, right? And defensively, you still struggle to run the ball. And offense, I don't know what we've got.
Yeah.
So it's like, a lot of folks want to point that blame at Riley Leonard. And I totally get it. I totally empathize with everybody, but you got to place that blame on Marcus Freeman. You
Why?
know, if Riley Leonard's here and you're unhappy about his play, the blame goes to Marcus Freeman. It just does. You know, you signed I'll say that week after week after week, you signed an injury-prone quarterback coming off the ankle. You signed him. You gave him this money without a physical. He missed spring ball. So now 4 weeks into the season, he should be caught up in terms of like reps if you factor in the missed spring ball, right? But that's on Freeman. That's not so much on Riley, to me.
Yeah, I guess that's just how you look at it.
Here we go.
Okay.
The weird thing about all of this is like, again, the messaging. Another pregame zinger from Freeman. He gets go interview somebody else pregame. And it's not like Zora Stevenson's asking him hard-hitting questions, but it's like, what are you looking for Riley Leonard? And what's he say? You know, they're a great Miami's a great team, a great defense. We gotta take what the defense gives us. Or what was his exact quote, Singer? I tweeted it. But something to that effect. You know, take what the defense allows us to have, something to that effect. And then after the game, can you talk about Riley Leonard's performance? And Coach Freeman's talking about getting rid of passing plays that he can't complete. So it's just like, what are you asking a Denbrock in this receiving room and your quarterback? So it just feels like, back to what I've been kind of saying, I don't really know what the plan is. And you watch the play on the field and then you listen to like the comments, and it's just kind of like all of us are kind of left in limbo, Singer. It's a weird feeling.
I agree. Just interview someone else, or like maybe, gosh, I mean, I hate saying this, but like, is there maybe even a little bit more media training of just like say nothing, just spew words that mean absolutely nothing, and not words that are very like Mike. We should not be talking about Freeman's pregame and postgame comments. That's not a good thing if we're on here talking about. Remember the Brian Kelly? You know, I wish my whole team was executed. Like, joke or not, we shouldn't be spending time talking about things that coaches say like that. You know, it's like the punter, right? If you're talking about the punter, that's a bad thing. You know, it's the same thing for me on this having to make things out of these press conferences.
But it puts us as fans watching it. It just puts you in a weird spot. And like I tweeted out, you know, prior to that game, I was really looking for Riley to stay in that pocket and fight that bad habit that he has of drifting out to his right. And guess what? He did it, man. He hung in there. Was going through his progressions. He's not an incredibly accurate quarterback. Riley Singer is going through it, brother. Like, he is going through it. Whatever it is, we've all gone through something. Like, he is going through it. He's got a strange demeanor, kind of look on his face. The poor kid, the fans are booing him. You know, they're chanting for Angeli in the stadium, and he's the $1 million man. I do think there's something to the usage of Jeremiah Love and Riley Leonard. And if we want to like run the football, and that's going to be our DNA as a program, I think, because that's what Freeman said, but half the stuff you got to let it go in one ear and out the other. Why does Riley Leonard have as many carries as the best player on your offense, Jeremiah Love? I tweeted you earlier. They both got like 60-something carries on the year. It's just like, and then factor in Jadarian Price into it as well.
Yeah.
The usage is weird. And it feels like, and I don't know what this is, but between Denbrock, Freeman, Riley Leonard, I don't know really like what the plan or what the identity is, but it feels like that we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. So we're robbing J Love and we're robbing Jadarian Price in order to kind of get Riley Leonard like going. You know what I'm saying? It's like you got two world-class athletes at tailback, and we're going to sacrifice carries for them to get our athlete playing quarterback going. It doesn't quite make sense to me.
Okay. So here are the carries here. You got Love 46 for 339 and Leonard 46 for 322. Now, sacks may be included in that. I can't remember, but I do believe so, but still, it's not like Leonard's been sacked enough to make that number
Well,
drop direct.
what's Love's yard per carry? Still over 7, isn't it?
7.4 versus 7. Price is even 7.4.
So, like in this game, Riley goes for 143 on the ground.
Yeah.
And we don't want to, I'm not taking anything away, but his 43-yard gain that got the ball got punched out as he's trying to play hero ball and, get an extra 3 yards on a. If you take away that run and you take away the 50-yard run late, he only had 50 yards rushing. Right. So it's like, are we banking on our $1 million quarterback to like get us chunk run plays? It's like, I like my odds with Jeremiah Love.
Yeah.
I mean, personally.
So I don't know if this is tinfoil hat worthy, Mike. But is there an element of this was the guy we brought in the offseason? We want to make him. We want to show off his strengths. We want to make him look good. Like if he's not really dynamic throwing the football downfield, you want to show off his running talents more. Like, do you think am I reading too much into something?
I think there's probably a degree of that, Singer, but it feels more like, okay, we brought him in, we paid him all this money, but Riley got to like kind of lay low, man, in the offseason.
He did.
Right?
We talked about that a lot. I feel like, yeah,
we did. We talked about how little we're talking about him. It was like
compared to Sam,
compared to the guy prior. Yeah, I mean, it was night and day. So it's not like he's on a billboard in Times Square or whatever. It's like we kind of let him lay low. The media did, us as fans, like you just didn't hear a lot about him. Now, granted, he was nicked up the whole time, but there just wasn't a lot of conversation surrounding it. So I think there's probably an element of that we're trying to make that decision look like we made the right decision somehow by running him all the time. But more so, it feels like you're trying to get him. Like you go back to the Purdue game, we talked about it on Patreon. Like Denbrock did an amazing job calling plays just to get him. Like here, spoon feed him. Like we're like, okay, buddy, like take our little. I mean, it was like that. And then you saw a little bit of this game, the same thing. But I'm just telling you, it's like your better players are your running backs. Those are your better players in terms of weaponry.
There's like a yin and yang here of
football. That's football, bro.
Of Leonard specifically about this, because after I did that call-in show last night, which if you guys were hanging out with me, it was so much fun. But it's like, on one hand, I'm just like dogging on Riley, and the next one, I'm hyping him up so much. It's just like I don't know what I think of the Leonard experiment, whatever you want to call it. So far, running the ball, he's as dynamic as they come, but yeah, I just keep going like up and down, counterbalancing my thoughts on the whole thing because I was just really pleased to see some accurate shots downfield. Like, I mean, the ball to Mitch on the PI, the ball to Bo on the PI, which I think, or it was a non-PI. Tim was saying that the DB was holding his arm or something, so Bo could only reach out one hand. The touchdown to Bo, that was a nice element to see.
Yeah.
Complemented with the run game, like pushing the ball downfield.
Yeah, I tweeted that out after the Purdue game, like the long ball's coming. And I was like, fingers crossed, it's going to be KK Smith on the receiving end. You could see if the guy would just stay in the pocket when he's given time, because he's fighting that bad habit to roll out all the time. In this game, you saw improvement there. The offensive line, I guess, held up. I mean, Anthony Knapp's had a couple rough weeks in a row. And, Tim Hyde talked about that. Maybe he's kind of hit a little bit of a wall, and who could blame the poor kid? He's 18 years old. But yeah, he has time to kind of go through his reads, but this is the beauty of the game, is like, it kind of goes back to what we talked about last year. And that's why I started watching the All 22, is to get the actual truth. Cause we'd be on here arguing the receivers are wide open. And then, no, they're not. He has time. No, he doesn't. The offensive line sucks. It's just like, okay, let's actually watch the film, and the eye in the sky doesn't lie. So to answer Juicy J's question, expect from a young guy who's been a head coach for less than 3 years. Oh boy. Oof, that's a toughie. I don't know. So the way that question's framed, Juicy, that's just my interpretation. I'm not saying that's what you meant, but I'm not giving Freeman a pass because he's had his third OC and his fourth quarterback in 3 years. He doesn't get a pass for that. As I've said many times, I don't think that there's a plan at quarterback, and it's like just get the new transfer in and kick the can down the road. But I do think too, like Singer and I is kind of like talking about the pressers and some of the words that come out of his mouth, like the messaging. I expect as a head coach at Notre Dame making the millions of dollars that you be better in front of a microphone, at least get like marginally better. I expect your in-game demeanor to be better. And both of those, I think Freeman falls short. It does not give me confidence as like a player perspective when I see that stuff. It just doesn't.
I think the can has reached the end of the road after this season, to use that analogy. I think they have a plan moving forward, and I think it's to let those guys duke it out heading into next season. We'll see. Of course, we'll see. You never know. But Juicy J, appreciate the super chat here, my friend. And then John Massey, appreciate yours as well. And then Coach Angelo earlier. Ghouls, you had sent me a text earlier today. Backyard football element versus a tuck and run quarterback. What do you mean by that?
Oh, yeah. So I've said, and this goes way back to my boy Tyler Buckner, like he had enough athleticism and spontaneity as a quarterback. Like if a play breaks down, let's say Anthony Knapp, your true left tackle freshman, gets beat. You'd watch a Caleb Williams, a Lamar Jackson, a Josh Allen move around, but keep their eyes downfield. So it's like, I'm going to move around. Okay, now we convert into a scramble drill. Wide receivers got to work themselves open. And it's like, so that's kind of what I want in a quarterback. I think like a Kenny Minchie can do that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure.
But it's like, with a Riley, it's more of like, oh, something breaks down.
I'm done.
To hell with it. I'm gone.
That's yeah.
He literally wide open for Purdue. It's the difference between this. Like I'm looking, I'm surveying, I'm getting out of Caleb Williams. I'm looking, like a lot of quarterbacks do this. They fade away, they throw off their back foot, sidearm, all of this stuff. Versus Riley gets a little bit of pressure and he turns into a fullback. And it's like, so then you kind of like, what does that mean for the offense? It's like, I mean, we're talking about wide receivers, how well they played, and so missed a block. I mean, that's what we're reduced to when talking about the wide receiver room. It's like how well they're blocking. It's sad.
Do you have quick thoughts on those guys, Mike?
Oh, Bo Collins looks great. He by far, and this is interesting too. So Bo Collins is like on a contract year, right? He's trying to get paid, go to the league. Like, so Bo, whether he's getting the ball or not, whether he's getting a ton of opportunities via the air or not, he's playing his tail off. Outside of that, I think they're average, man. I hate to say that, but they're
better than last year.
All things considered, I mean, last year you probably had a better thrower of the ball in Hartman. I would say it's comparable to last year. I'm sure you could look up the stats, what have you. But the passing game's going to get better. You took 4 shots downfield this game. You had 3 pass interferences. You had 1 touchdown. But I will say, I charted like 6 to 8 missed throws by Riley, like just whoppers, like woof. Then there was the 2 back-to-back. Where you saw Cooper Flanagan kind of get upset on the sidelines. That was hard to watch. And we all know, folks, and same thing with a Tyler Buckner. They can complete that pass, but there's just something going on, between the ears.
Looking at the 2023 stats at the receiver position, I think last year's Never mind, because I would have just disproved something I said in the offseason. I don't want to feel like an idiot. But I mean, Chris Tyree is your leading receiver, 484 yards. I mean, Flores, we're not counting the tight end on this discussion, but Jordan Faison, Thomas, I would say maybe it's slightly better because of Bo. You have a number one guy, whereas last year it was just a hodgepodge.
Yeah, it was a mash unit. I mean, it was a mash unit last
this year. So far through 4 games, you have one receiver over 100 yards through 4 games. So they definitely spread the ball around. Wasn't the Flanagan thing though?
He hurt himself.
That's what I feel like I remember.
Yeah, I mean, he looked like he kind of tweaked his ankle, but it could be both.
It could be. Yeah, you're right. Maybe.
It could be both. He's like, dang it, I sprained my ankle and he missed me wide open. So offensively, I don't have any answers. I hate to break it to everybody. Steve's not going to be your quarterback. It's just not going to happen unless Riley gets hurt. And fundamentally speaking, I don't know what Freeman's messaging to Denbrock is. If you read the press conference, like you read the stuff he says into a microphone, it's like, holy smokes. So it's like, it doesn't, like, all things, if you don't watch the film, I would feel like everybody at home does. Like, I would feel the same way. But when you watch the film, he learned how to stay in the pocket. You know, he goes 20% better this year. It's not the jump in performance that you'd want to see, but he's getting like incrementally better week to week. Now, this Louisville game is massive. I mean, this isn't an 0-2 MAC team, folks. I mean, they're a good squad. You know what else is interesting about this season, Singer? You know, Wegman, the quarterback from A&M, he's still not playing. They played a close game with Bowling Green. So we don't even, still to this day, they're ranked 25. We don't even know how good A&M is. Northern Illinois just lost to Buffalo, right? And then Purdue loses. I forget who they lost to, right? So it's like we beat an 0-3 MAC team. We beat an NIU team that lost to Buffalo. And so it's like there's so much that's still up for grabs this far into the season. You still don't know a lot. Holistically speaking, you don't. Oregon State, thank you.
Yep.
That's who Purdue lost to.
I want to say this for people who are just like, oh, you guys are too negative. Listen. One, just calling it how we see it. We're not going to come on here and try to make you feel better. There's got to be another YouTube channel for you if that's you. If you need someone to make you feel better and that, everything is amazing and Notre Dame's going to win every game by 50 points, this ain't the place for you. 2, it's through the championship lens. Everyone wants a national championship. This is Notre freaking Dame. So I just want to, because as I was thinking, I was like, damn, like I'm thinking about what I'm saying. Like, this is not the old Mike Singer. But I've been around long enough.
You're grizzled, man. You're calloused at this point. And I don't think I've said a few times this season, I'm in being intentional and trying to be more positive. But we know this, Singer. People hear what they want to hear. I'm just saying Riley Leonard's improving, not as quickly as we all want him to. I blame Freeman because you took a kid that was injured when you signed him. And that's solely on you as the head man making that decision. It's not Riley Leonard's fault that he missed spring. It's not. So now he's caught up in terms of like exposure to the offense.
Let me ask you this real quick.
He's getting better. Last thought, Singer.
Yeah.
The offensive line still worries me. We're playing 3 backups. Is that me being negative? It's a concern for me. Yeah. And then beyond that, give Jadarian Price and specifically Jeremiah Love the ball more. And then get better at a press conference. Get better talking into a microphone as the head freaking coach at Notre Dame. It's embarrassing.
Improvement versus like development. I want your take on this. As a college quarterback, how much more like development? Like, is it a case of Riley just is what he is? Okay, let me try to make this make sense. Like, okay, he's improving in specific areas, but generally speaking, he's developed as a college quarterback. Does that make sense? Would you agree with that?
I need you to ask me that again. So we're saying he is improving.
Because we saw him do things that we know he can do, but he hadn't, right? Deep shots. We know he can do that, but like getting more comfortable, right? Taking those shots. But like, how much better is he getting like as a quarterback in general, like developing as a football player? Does that make sense?
There's a lot of work all off season, Singer. What did I call Riley Leonard? An athlete playing quarterback. And you love the potential to improve just based off of his physical traits and his wiring, the level of compete. But when you miss that spring ball, it's like, okay, to like work on the finite details of the position of any position, it's critical. So I feel like coming out of this game, Miami, Ohio, he's at like the baseline. It's like, hey, Riley, when you take that snap, brother, stay in the damn pocket. You're a quarterback, remember? Your job is to throw the ball. It isn't take the ball and just run like a freshman in high school would. Truly. It's like where he's at now is like a baseline. And this is another thing that I've thought. The ACC is hot garbage. It sucks. You know, James Madison just blew out North Carolina. Like if we in the ACC, the academic thing, I understand why we take these transfers, but like it's terrible football. So any other future transfer thing, like if they come from the ACC, I'm going to be looking at them through a very, very skeptical lens. Because what you saw Riley Leonard do at Duke 2 years ago, it's like, well, he threw for 3,000 yards. Yeah, in the ACC, they don't play defense in the ACC. I mean, James Madison just hung 70 on North Carolina. It's bad football. Remember when we played North Carolina 2-3 years ago? They're terrible on defense, like terrible. So who's evaluating? I've had a lot of conversations about this. Like, who's evaluating some of these kids? Like these kids coming in, like, oh, you know, now I'm just ranting. But I hope that answers your question. I think Riley coming out of this game is to a point where he's at a base level of what like a normal, realistic expectation of a quarter. Hang in the pocket, go through a progression or two, and throw the freaking ball.
Maybe Clemson and Miami being the exceptions, but I don't. Man, when's the last time Notre Dame got a transfer from Miami? Have they? I don't know. But
Miami's got a good quarterback now.
Yeah, and then obviously Bo Collins came from Clemson.
So again, folks, we had options in the portal. I mean, duh.
This guy just said Riley's going through his spring ball right now. It's interesting.
That's kind of what I'm saying, Patrick. I totally agree. No, he is he's a fourth-year player.
Oh, I didn't mean to click on that, but there we go.
Yeah, I mean, he's played a lot of football, but for whatever reason, you know, again, folks, he was supposed to be a Division I shooting guard. Football falls into his lap, and this is where we're at. I'm just telling you. And it's like maybe they needed him to just dick around at Duke to win games. And he's playing at Duke. Let's talk about home field thing.
Let's. Do you know the college football season's already a third of the way over? Just the regular season, at least. Still a lot of time to get geared up in your, in some dope Fighting Irish gear. I mean, home field, as I say all the time, it's got the retro look without the retro tear and smell and the rips and that stain from your Aunt Linda when she spilled the wine. You know what I'm talking about. Home field, if you need any advice, on your marketing, clearly I know what I'm doing here. I'm so good at, I really like that retro tear and smell line. But anyways, you are going to want to get geared up for Notre Dame's hopeful run to the college football playoff. And that's where we're going to meet Home Field Apparel, a premium a premium collegiate apparel based out of Indianapolis. You guys know I love all of their stuff that I get to wear. Goolsby loves it as well. Home Field's rolling out new clothing items all the time, including this really unique coach's jacket. Clothes fit great, very comfortable, highly recommend. homefieldapparel.com. Check out the entire Notre Dame line. If you have friends that are fans of another school, like, listen, the holidays are coming around. Buy yourself a couple things, get your wife something of wherever she went to school. Get cousin Nick and something for Uncle Joe. And, you might Yeah. Just get it. Just go all out. So you do your Christmas shopping and then you get yourself some stuff. And the best part, Mike, when you use the code BGI, 15% off the order. 15% you're off your first order at Home Field. So check out Home Field and gear up for an exciting season ahead.
15% discount is healthy, but so Singer, you talked about Aunt Linda, Uncle Joe, and cousin Nick. So I assume Nick is Joe and Linda's kid. What size is he?
He's a 3X. He's a big boy.
He's still living at home. I get it.
Yeah. I don't know why I think that's so funny.
Plays a lot of Fortnite.
Hey! Oh man, my mother's name is Linda. That's funny.
Hey, let's talk defense.
Defense. That was next on the list.
So I got in some Twitter beef today. And again, this is the nuance of football. This is why John and I's Patreon platform is fun, because it's fun to just talk about. Nobody's really got the answer. We're not calling the plays, whatever. Our defense is amazing in a lot of respects, Singer. Preseason grade, who's everybody lauding over? The D-line, right? The strongest position group on the field. Not me. I said cornerback, A+. And it's bared itself out to be true. What'd Tim give it? A? I said, what'd I say? B+? Gosh, man. D-line, yeah. So Al Golden has the absolute luxury, and I just started watching the defensive film this afternoon. We can just literally line up and play man. Like he could just like put it fantasy football. He could just put it on auto draft and just be like, cover one, call whatever blitz combination you want. Our secondary is incredible. Adon Schuler had the stupid, unsportsmanlike. He didn't have a great game on top of that. How they were asking him to play coverage was a little interesting. Thrilled to see Christian Gray get his first pick. I will say, Christian, you're an immensely talented player, but get on the freaking jugs machine because you're costing yourself money. You could have 3.5 picks thus far this year. You've dropped a couple. He breaks on these balls. You would be Benjamin Morrison. You'd be a freshman All-American, no questions asked, right? So work on those hands. Even his interception was hit his forearms, not his hands. But I still worry, bro. As good as the defense is, the nuance of football. We've held 2 opponents to 10 points for sure. But you can still run the ball on us. And the film's out there. And Riley Mills, he is the new Marist. I hate to say it. Which means he'll probably be a 3rd-round pick and start for the Steelers next year, right? Just the way it works. But
he got on the freaks list, so
2 years running. But no, Riley Mills is not playing great. And then there's a couple. I'll give a couple shout outs. I prefer KVA over Drake Bowen. I just do. I think they're both great players. I just have a preference. There was a time in the 4th quarter, due to lack of leadership, tweeted about this. I'm a good Twitter follower, by the way, I think, Singer, especially during game day. But you could just feel the defense kind of oozing around, as my old coach Bob Davey would say. We're out here oozing. And Drake Bowen stepped up 2 consecutive plays. He's in man-to-man coverage, against a tight end. I think they leaked the guy out. He makes a play, and then he gets a sack on the next consecutive play. And it was almost due to his innate leadership, he felt the defense kind of lagging. They had moved the ball down the field. They're on the 20-ish yard line going in, and he steps up and makes 2 plays, and we block the field goal the next play. And I'm like, I just see a lack of leadership in the front, in particular in stopping the run. You have to have pride in this. Dude, all we're doing is playing man behind you. So you either get home and make a freaking sack and bring a quarterback down, or you get tackles for loss and you stop a run. You feel me? And I just wanted to give Drake a little bit of a shout out because, again, they're about to, maybe put 10 points on the board, and he stepped up on 2 consecutive plays. The team feeds off that energy. We block a field goal. But you can run the ball on us. It worries me.
Okay. linebackers. Okay. Let me
Always
pull
talk
up the
about
snap
linebackers.
counts, Mike.
Traore leading the team in sacks with 3. He had a couple this game.
Yep.
Jason Anye coming out of left field. Jason Anye is outplaying Riley Mills last 2 games, in particular in pass rush scenarios. Like, he is getting after it. Junior Tuialamaka, Mike, poor kid, should be playing Mike linebacker, was a damn good Mike linebacker, started as a true freshman. And he's playing outside of his natural position, but he played great, save for a couple run fits today. It's just interesting how some of these kids, when you like, and he's a great football player. It's like really good football players, when you give them some run, it's amazing to see how like the production goes up. Let them kind of get in the flow of things. You were going to pull up snap counts?
Yeah. So Kaiser played the most of the linebackers at 38. Bowen, Osbury, KVA, Sneed, all between 27 and 23 snaps. Drake 27, Osbury 24, KVA and Sneed 23 apiece.
Yeah. So I'll keep going.
Go.
Tail end of the Purdue game, garbage time. They're really trying to work Jalen Sneed into playing Will. And I love Sneed. There's too many good options there. It's like, I'd just as soon, get Drake reps or get KVA reps or get Osbury reps than trying to like, not to say that like Sneed is a square peg trying to go into a round hole, but like in a big game against a Louisville, let him go rush, do creative things with him schematically, let him cover and let him rush. I don't know if I trust him just yet as a comfort level diagnosing plays as an inside linebacker. Osbury, like it's time as you get into like Louisville and we have this constant rotation. It's like, I would like to think that whether it's the wide receiver room, defensive line, secondary linebackers, you got to know who your guys are at this point in a big game like this. So I've seen enough of Jalen playing inside linebacker. I love him, but either send him on a blitz, but don't let him read it out. It'll cost you.
I'm just trying to think about what else to talk about. I mean, on the defense, I mean, the secondary is great. It's great. I mean, what else is there really to add? So it's just like, is this me as a guy who likes offense more? And I'm like, all right, well, that's pretty much that's a wrap on defense. Or is it just defense is not as, especially like you said, it's so much just cover one. It's just like, all right, it's man, like this is just
it's cover one. And dude, like we've been talking about it in a couple years in Golden's scheme. It's kind of a bend but don't break thing. Golden's been vocal about that. I mean, he cares much more. It's an NFL DNA. He cares much more about pass game disruption with the quarterback. You don't necessarily got to get home like the Texas A&M game. Just make that quarterback uncomfortable. But if you're a linebacker playing in that scheme, you look back and you're like, okay, I played 23 snaps, 15 of which I got sent. It's like, okay, I got to either like bring a ball carrier down or I got to get home on a quarterback. Otherwise, I'm just like I don't know how to play chess, but I'm just a pawn, right? I'm just a moving piece. Why not actually make a play? Does that make sense?
Gotta get you how to play chess, but
I don't have time. But that's probably about it on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah, Traore is going to be a star. But yeah, I'm just concerned about the nuance of football. We don't give up a ton of points. And early in this game, we made the worst rushing team in Division I football look pretty good running the ball. And it was like, okay, I know we only gave up 3 points, but like, what's the standard? Oh, I had another thought, Singer. Mm-hmm. The standard. How many balls were on the ground? Defenses on the field. How many balls were on the ground this game? A couple, right?
3. Yeah.
I think it was a couple, 2, 3. Junior Tuialamaka makes a nice interception on a tip pass. Love to see it. But when your defense isn't like, you got me, Singer?
Yeah.
Okay. My screen went blank for a second. When the defense isn't like locked in terms of, do you remember when we had Greg Madison on the podcast and we talked, he was just all about effort. Yep. World-class coach, world-class recruiter, coach in the NFL, coach at Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Florida. Fundamentally, it's like, get to the damn ball. And when those balls are on the ground and somehow we don't come up with them 2 or 3 times, that bugs me. I just highlighted a clip on Twitter 2 hours ago. It's like that ball squirts out and you got Riley Mills, a captain, watching it happen. And it's like, get in there, man, you know? So we'll see what happens next week, because it is going to be a big, huge game, but it is a day game at Notre Dame Stadium. So I don't know if you want to talk about that.
I've had this queued up and we were about to go there. I love when you do that for me, Mike. It's like you're reading my mind. This is from Juicy J earlier.
We've been doing it 5 years, Mike.
It's wild. He said, we got to figure out how to make our home environment more hostile. I think I said it either on my call-in show last night or with Tim, or maybe it was with you. I don't remember, but I brought it up like the sleepy day games. I feel like we used to talk about it a ton. For whatever reason, it just hasn't come up on our shows as much. So, would you agree with that? Like we haven't just mentioned that in our shows as much recently, right?
No, we haven't talked about it recently, but it is a thing.
Okay, so I'm sure we've picked up a lot new folks. Your time at Notre Dame in those day games, I want your thoughts on that. And I remember you telling me that like you guys sometimes will play better on the road. Could you just get away? So I'll give you the floor.
Well, night games are always best because I think you just get to lay around a little bit that day. You get to just lay around, put your feet up. You can take a nap or whatever is the case. And maybe it's just my experience. And I have a lot of ex-teammates that watch this show, but it's like me personally, my whole time at Notre Dame, I was tired. Every workout was to exhaustion. You know, you got class. I'm in study hall because I didn't have the grades. You know, I'm in study hall till 10 o'clock for 3 years consecutively, right? And then it's like, boom, here comes the game. And it's like, I'm already tired from Friday. And then the mass and all of this. I don't have the solution per se, because if I did, like I would bottle it and I would sell it for millions of dollars, like what that fix is. But like that first quarter performance you've seen against this MAC team, it's horrible. But it's very real. It's very real. And I don't blame the fans or anything like that, but it's just, we talked about this on Patreon. Like, what does Notre Dame's halftime look like? When you're down, that was a question. Like when you're down against Northern Illinois, let me cook here, Singer. When you're down against Northern Illinois at halftime, like what is that vibe in the locker room? That's not a bad idea. I would be willing to bet that a Notre Dame locker room at halftime, especially when you're down at home, is a different vibe than if Georgia was down at home. In terms of like the level of energy, there's a certain level of like stoicism that comes along with being a Notre Dame football player. And I respect it, but I don't know if it's entirely useful because it's quiet in there. You know, you kind of like stew a little bit versus, you know, if I'm in Georgia's locker room, I mean, they might put on some Kodak Black and like be like, you know, getting crunk, dude. I don't know what kids say anymore, but getting lit. Because it's like you almost got to start the game over. So there is a degree of stoicism in a Notre Dame stadium because the place is so steeped in history. And you want to be respectful of that. But then also, I got to go bang heads. So how do you push those buttons? I don't know. But I did make a note. September 22nd, I put this note in my phone. So that was probably coming off the heels of Northern Illinois. Right? Maybe so. So I put, when was that game, Sarah?
What was the date you said?
When was the NIU game, Northern Illinois game?
7th, I think.
Okay. Oh, no. So this note says September 22nd is today. I put this note in my phone around that time. I just put Notre Dame Stadium is steeped in history. And I'm talking to Freeman. Convince your players to go make their own history. These teams come in like a Northern Illinois and they embrace that history and they try to make their own history in our stadium. Does that make sense? So like acknowledge it for what it is and go make history. So it's like, oh, Notre Dame Stadium, all the history. We all love it as fans. And all these teams embrace it. And they're like, I'm going to etch my name and I'm going to tell my grandkids about this game. It's like, why can't you go do that and tell your grandkids about the play you made in Notre Dame Stadium? Flip it.
Keep cooking, Mike.
Oh, that's it. That's it.
Oh,
but you see what I'm saying? They're
bro,
like,
I got
oh,
goosebumps.
They soak it in. It's like, yeah, Notre Dame didn't recruit me. They come in with the chip on their shoulder. These kids think they're better than thou, or better than me, or whatever. And it's like they come in, they're like, they circle that game on their calendar, same way I did for that Tennessee game. It's like, I'm gonna make a play in Notre Dame Stadium. It's like, acknowledge it and be like, you go make your history. Xavier Watts, legend, that USC game. You're a legend because of that. Nobody will ever forget you. I agree with John. Oh, do I agree with John?
It's this something you've said before?
Yes. Yes, like the songs that
the Six Flags. I thought
it's like,
I was like, is this a band? I don't know. Okay.
I mean, you could close your eyes and just throw a dart, and the players don't listen to that music. It's all like edited poorly in terms of like how they splice songs together. It's awful. It's awful. And it's like, are we doing this for the fans? Are we doing this for the players? But yeah, the whole light show and all that, while I appreciate it, it could be so, so much better.
Dude, I jotted that timestamp down. That make your own history thing. That's going to be coming to a tweet near you soon. I'm going to clip that sucker. That's going to.
Yeah, but it makes sense,
that was a
right?
good soundbite, Mike.
How dare you let them come in here and tell their grandkids? They're going to tell their grandkids about what they did to you at Notre Dame field. It's like, you make your own history. Embrace it. You do have to, again, kiss the ring and like, okay, we all appreciate everything that happened here, Four Horsemen, all this other stuff. But it's like, again, go make a play, man.
Yeah. Is that little leprechaun next to you new?
It is, yes.
Dude, it looks sick. Where'd you get that?
My girlfriend made this. Yeah. So, dude, the poor girl, I've got it like stuck to the, I sit there and watch football all Saturday, all Sunday. So she's got to keep herself occupied. So she started crocheting. So it bears a little bit of resemblance to John Kennedy. So I'm going to call him John. Yeah, she made that.
That is she's very talented. That's very impressive.
She's a savage, man. She's a savage.
Ghost Dog Studio, appreciate the super chat. It says we need to keep the field flips out on Saturday. Shorter drives for us could lead to more success against Louisville, no doubt. Juicy J, $5 super chat. Thank you. Says Goolsby, when you played, do you have a hype man in the locker room, a player leader who amped up the team in tough moments?
It's an interesting question. In the locker room, yes, but it was probably the wrong hype men. But I think like amping up a team in a tough moment, that's more like in the huddle, on the field, on the sideline thing. I think what gets said in the locker room kind of goes in one ear and out the other. But if you're talking about like in the moment, sure, you need guys like that just to kind of wake you up. And I go back to the end of this game, and I've got war stories and all this other stuff. But like this game, like you saw Drake Bowen being like, you saw him kind of getting on people, and I fully embrace it.
Would there have been like
locker room stuff is kind of for the birds. Like now in the NFL, they got like a camera up, like there's some guy with a camera, like listen to, so like that's all for show. I think the real stuff, the real leadership happens on the field or on a sideline. That's just my opinion.
So then what was your leadership style like? Like when you're watching Notre Dame play, is there like, that's who I was like, or they were like me, I should say?
I've gotten more comfortable with talking about this stuff because I was a good player, but I played for the worst head coach probably Notre Dame's ever had. But when I watch like the defense play, and mind you, Singer, I've always said I never really quite knew what I was doing when I was out there, hand to God. But like I had this like anxiety, this like constant, like, I was around the ball, dude. So it's like my motor was 1,000 miles an hour, whether I knew what I was doing or not. Like it was very important for me to get around the ball. Just like an instinctual pull. So like leadership style, yeah, there's times in a game where, I remember Tim will know this name, like Big Cedric Hilliard, like we were in a game and they were driving on us, and I was in the huddle, and he had his head down in the huddle, and I slapped his helmet just to like wake him up, and he looked like he was about to put his hands on me, and I was like, good, So yeah, you have to push buttons. But I think it comes down to like in that moment, like, okay, guy, they're moving the ball. Like, okay, somebody step up here. And then, if you've trained the hardest, you've outworked everybody in the offseason, it's like you're in the best condition to do so. And like, I feel comfortable trying to take my shot, because you're in the flow of the game. As a player, I don't have an analyst telling me what to do. So some of that stuff just comes out naturally.
Mike Nolan, $5 super chat's asking about the pregame comments from Freeman. We already talked about this. I don't think we have anything else to add on.
Well, it's Mike, to Mike Nolan's point. I'm tired of it. Personally, I'm tired of it. It's like, well, he doesn't know what he's saying, or it's just a throwaway comment. It's like, well, then make a different one, because it's, as an ex-player, it's getting to the point where it's embarrassing, and it's 2 weeks in a row. And that, again, back to Marcus Freeman's infrastructure, world-class defensive coordinator, legitimately, world-class offensive coordinator, legitimately. You've got your little media person. You've got your analytics person. It's like, what more do you need to be the head coach? What more do you need to know what you're talking about? I think it's unacceptable. So it's like people like me grabbed a hold of his like weird post-game comments, pre-game comments last week, and then he does literally the same thing this year. And it's like, where's the improvement there? And so I find it to be embarrassing, personally. Get better.
Wrapping up, Mike. Offensive snap counts here. This is the season snap.
Where's Jaden Greathouse?
So Greathouse is 26. So he had 26 compared to, the starters played 60 snaps. And then you had the second team coming in the end there. That's when, your Steve came in, your Joe Wadding, your Sullivan Absher, those guys. But yeah, he had 26 snaps. And you texted me asking me that. What was on your mind with Greathouse? What were you curious about?
I just go back to like off-season narratives. We didn't get a chance to see Bo, right? Because he didn't compete in the spring because he was still enrolled at Clemson. I don't know all the particulars, but it was like Jaden Greathouse was propped up like he is the man, he is the alpha in the wide receiver room. And it's like, we're 4 games into the season. I know the quarterback passing game is not great, but it just seems like, where is he? And I mean, it's like, so 4 games into this, it's like, bar none, Bo Collins is your best receiver. But it's like, I thought 5 weeks ago it was Jaden Greathouse.
Is it an unpopular opinion to talk about Mitch Evans in that light? He played 39 snaps. That was the most of any player, not an offensive lineman or a quarterback. So he's back.
He's back.
He's back. And
you got to deliver him the ball, though. I mean, I could think of one play right off the top of my head where we missed him. Again, there's 6 to 8 gimme throws that we just missed.
Yeah. So yeah, you got to get him the ball. You got to get Greathouse the ball. Greathouse was targeted once. Yeah.
So yeah, wrapping it up. Riley's getting better, but any critique of Riley, I just want to say, like, he did not put a gun to Marcus Freeman's head and say, "Pay me $1 million or else." Marcus Freeman wanted Riley Leonard. So any sort of blame, and again, you kind of knew what you were getting. We watched some film. I hope we watched some film before we signed him. So it's like, put the blame elsewhere. Don't put it on Riley. He's continuing to develop, miss spring ball. And give Jeremiah Love the ball more, please. He is a special, special kid.
I hear you on your point, right? It was Freeman's decision. But, I mean, there's definitely responsibility on Leonard's play as a quarterback and a competitor. But it's like, okay, where does the blame stop? Does it go from Freeman to Jack Swarbrick, right? Does it keep going up? Well, don't just blame Freeman. Swarbrick's the one who hired Freeman, who brought in Leonard. So I might push back a little bit on that, but I think it's a part of the discussion for sure.
Yeah, and you'll see it in the All-22 film. He's gotten baby steps better, and for good reason, because this is the season. I mean, this next game is the game.
Okay, so we'll end on this, Mike. You've had your 2 MAC home games the 3:30 kicks. I'm going to categorize Miami of Ohio game as mostly a stinker, right? Because you looked bad.
First half was tough. First half was tough.
Yeah, the first 22 minutes or whatever. And then you've had 2 games on the road where the Irish competed their asses off and won. You beat Purdue by 59 points, and then you beat Texas A&M on the road to open the season by 10. That first game is tough. It's like, which one are we going to see? You have a better opponent, but it's still a Notre Dame 3:30 p.m. games. Like, which Notre Dame do we see? Do we see it's like we're coming out in Denbrock? I mean, that open against Purdue was just phenomenal. Just schemed everything. It was beautiful. All the misdirection. We didn't see that against Miami of Ohio. So it's like, which Notre Dame offense? The defense, whether they give up yards, whatever the case may be, defense is not going to be put in a position for a while.
Unless,
they're giving up like 30 points or something.
Unless, like you saw in the Northern Illinois game, there is going to come a point in time in that game where the defense, back to the leadership thing we were just talking about 10, 15 minutes ago, somebody has to step up. Okay, we need to get them off the field. Does that make sense? Because it's like, okay, I know they only scored 16 points, but like at a certain point in time, we needed to get Northern Illinois off the field and we couldn't do it. Right? So because you got to win the game. Have you looked at the line for this game, Singer?
4.5. Right.
Notre Dame's favored 4.5, over under at 48. 48.5.
So so they're expecting some kind of low 20s game, like a 21-17 or what, 24-28, something like that. That makes sense. Something like that.
I don't know. I think the first quarter will probably be a wash, similar to this game. But you got to be able to stop the run. I have the Louisville Georgia Tech game recorded. I've yet to watch that to kind of get a better understanding of Louisville as an opponent. But you just pray it's a team that, Freeman's got a tendency to get his team up for games, but it's with that caveat, Singer. It's either or a night game or an away game. So how do you get your team up for a big game and it's a day game? And I'm sure somebody's going to be like, well, no, the Clemson game, I'm just telling you.
Night game.
Most of the games have been away or at night.
Yeah. You like that thought I had there? You like that? You like pull that?
Yeah.
That Louisville one? Yeah. Yeah. Think of the big wins. USC, Clemson, these are all night games. So, all right, Mr. Goolsby, great show tonight. Great show tonight.
It's a weird week. It's a weird week. People are upset. I'm telling you, the quarterback play is not as bad as you think. It's getting a little bit better. They're gelling with the wide receiver room. The offensive line's still a concern for me. The running backs sure aren't. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we can lock up with anybody. We can lock up with anybody in coverage. And it's just like, okay, now the next evolution is to turn the ball over and stop the run.
It's nice to be talking about a Notre Dame defense that can hang with, because that was when I started on this beat, man. The conversation for a long time is Notre Dame just doesn't have the dudes on the outside, and they do not defensively, at least. So that is nice to see.
No, and the kids Hobbs and Leonard Moore playing behind him. I mean, it's like, dude. Yeah, I mean, it's not a problem anymore. It's not a problem anymore. So that's my challenge. Stop the run, tackles for loss, and then figure out who's a better runner, Riley Leonard or Jeremiah Love. Don't take carries. We'll lump Jadarian Price in. I just have a preference for Love. Don't take carries away from those two to get your quarterback his bearings. It's just it seems like a weird trade-off to me.
All right, folks, please hit the thumbs up on this video if you have not done so yet. Subscribe to the channel for more content, and follow Mike Goolsby on Twitter at Mike Goolsby41. He's almost to 4,000 Twitter followers, and like he said, he is a great follow. Yeah,
game day I try, man. Game day I really do try.
Yeah, you do a great job. Folks, that's going to do it for this week's show. Really appreciate you guys, and as always, we will catch you next time.